Heists are a staple of cinema, but none come close to the real thing. And what's more quintessentially Italian than the Mafia? Here's our list of the Mafia's most legendary heists. Number 10. The Great Train Robbery of Little Italy. In 1960, the Lufthansa Airlines Flight 590 left Italy and arrived at Idlewild Airport in Queens, New York, carrying $180,000 worth of cargo. Now, it might not seem like much today, but in the early 60s, that was an insane amount of money. When the plane landed, the cargo was supposed to be picked up by two men, but they were nowhere to be found. Instead, there was a man waiting with a forged document claiming to be one of the original two men. He told customs officials that the cargo was just some clothing and shoes, and that they could check if they wanted. They didn't, and so the man took the shipment and left. He then met up with his accomplices, who had stolen a truck earlier that day. Together, they drove to an auto body shop owned by a mafia boss, where the real recipients of the goods would pick them up. But unbeknownst to them, the cops had been following them the whole way, and they ended up arresting everyone involved. It was one of the biggest robberies in the history of aviation. Number 9. The Mafia Bank Heist. In October 1978, 4 armed robbers walked into a bank in Brooklyn. Number 8. The Mafia Diamond Heist. Raoul Walsh was a diamond dealer based in Manhattan. He dealt with some rough stones. We're talking about diamonds mined in South Africa. And he sold them to jewelry stores across the U.S. One time he got a massive order from a client in California, so he packed up 42 bags filled with loose diamonds and put them in the trunk of his car. Then he drove to Kennedy International Airport to catch a red-eye flight to Los Angeles. But when he arrived, he realized that there was no parking available near the terminal. So he decided to park further away and take the shuttle bus to the entrance. That proved to be a huge mistake, because when he came back, he found that someone had broken into his car and stolen all of the diamonds. It turned out that the thief was working with a member of the Genovese crime family, and together they sold the diamonds on the black market for millions of dollars. Walsh was left holding the bag with only a few small stones inside, which he was able to sell for a fraction of what they were worth. To this day, the diamond heist remains one of the biggest unsolved mysteries in FBI history. Number 7. The Mafia Gold Heist. In 1980, Anthony Valentine, a member of the Lucchese crime family, was hired to transport 400 pounds of gold to a refinery in Switzerland. Along the way, he stopped at a hotel in Paris to meet up with his girlfriend. But when he returned to the car, he found that it had been broken into and the gold was gone. He immediately called the cops and told them everything. But when they searched the hotel room, they found a lot of things, just not the gold. They did find, however, a huge stash of fake gold bars and a letter from the real thieves demanding a ransom. In exchange for the real gold, the police didn't pay, and eventually the case went cold. Some believe that the mafia stole the gold and sold it on the black market. Others think that it was actually an inside job, with Valentine making the whole thing up to collect on the insurance money. We may never know for sure. Number 6. The Mafia Casino Heist. In 1982, Stardust Hotel and Casino in Las Vegas was robbed of $3 million. Now, that was a huge amount back then, and it made headlines all over the country. But what people didn't know was that the robbery was actually an inside job orchestrated by the very people who owned the casino. You see, the Stardust was owned by the Mafia, specifically by a guy named Anthony Spilatro, who was also known as the Ant-Man. And let me tell you, he was not happy with the way things were going. Business was bad and the casino wasn't making enough money. So he came up with a plan to rob the place and collect on the insurance money. He recruited 4 accomplices, including his brother and 2 of his friends from high school. Together, they rigged the slot machines to pay out huge jackpots, emptied the vaults, and made off with the cash. But when the police investigated, they soon realized that this was no ordinary robbery. This was a carefully planned heist, and the mastermind behind it all was Anthony Spilatro himself. All 5 men were eventually caught and sentenced to prison. Number 5. The Mafia Jewel Heist. On December 9, 1967, a group of armed robbers stormed a jewelry store in San Francisco and made off with $300,000 worth of gems. What they didn't know was that they were being watched by the cops. As they fled the scene, the police gave chase, but the robbers managed to escape. For years, the case went cold until new evidence surfaced that linked the robbery to the Mafia. It turned out that the men who robbed the store were part of a crew that specialized in stealing jewelry from Mafia-owned stores. They knew that the stores were heavily insured and that the owners would unbother reporting the thefts to the police. And they were right. The owner of the store didn't report the robbery for almost a week, which gave the thieves plenty of time to get away. The case was eventually solved, and the men were arrested, but not before they made off with a fortune in jewels. Number 4. The Mafia art heist. In 1978, 7 paintings were stolen from the home of a wealthy couple in Manhattan. Among them was a Rembrandt self-portrait worth $10 million. The thieves were never caught, and the paintings were never recovered. But it wasn't long before rumors started spreading that the art had been stolen by the Mafia. See, the couple who owned the paintings had ties to the Bonanno crime family. And when they disappeared, so did the paintings. Rumors suggested that the art had been smuggled out of the country and sold on the black market. But the truth was much simpler. The paintings were never smuggled out of the country or sold on the black market. They were simply hidden away in a safe house in Staten Island until a buyer could be found. Eventually, the family of the original owners bought the paintings back from the Mafia, and they are now on display at a museum in Washington, D.C. No, 3. The Mafia Museum Heist. In 1981, a group of armed robbers stole $10 million worth of artifacts from the Museum of Italian Culture in Toronto. Among the stolen items were paintings by Michelangelo and Raphael. The thieves were never caught, and the paintings were never recovered. But the story doesn't end there. In the early 1990s, a man named Giacomo Agostino came forward claiming that he had information about the robbery. He said that the paintings were smuggled into the United States and sold on the black market. He also claimed that he had seen one of the paintings in the possession of a Mafia boss. To this day, the paintings remain missing, and the mystery of what happened to them has never been solved. Number 2. The Mafia liquor heist. In 1975, a group of armed robbers stole 200 cases of liquor from a warehouse in New Jersey. The liquor was owned by a Mafia-connected businessman, and the thieves made off with an estimated $1 million worth of booze. But the story doesn't end there. You see, the man whose liquor was stolen was also involved in the illegal gambling business. And when he learned that the police were investigating the robbery, he decided to cover up. He bribed a state trooper and filed a false insurance claim. When the police investigated, they uncovered a massive gambling ring that stretched from New Jersey to Nevada. In the end, 27 people were arrested and charged with racketeering and gambling. Number 1. The Mafia armored car heist. In 1967, a group of armed robbers pulled off one of the most audacious armored car heists in history. They targeted a Brinks armored car. As it was making its way through the streets of Boston, the robbers made off with $500,000 in cash, which was a huge amount at the time. But the mastermind behind the heist was a Mafia boss who used the money to fund his illegal activities. The boss was later arrested and convicted, but not before he used the money to make a ton of illegal bookies. In the end, the armored car heist was one of the most profitable crimes in Mafia history. Well, that's all for this video. Hope you enjoyed learning about the Mafia's most legendary heists. If you want to learn more about the Mafia, stay tuned for more content. Till then, remember to stay classy, just like the Mafia.